Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adrian Flack, the training specialist for AD Global Solution in the languages area. Welcome to our webinar today. We'll be using the digital media in order to learn and improve a language, in this case, English. And yes, it will be held in English. So before starting with Robert Dennis, our expert trainer in business, English and communications, I'd like to say a few words about our company. Firstly, AD Global Solution is ISO 9001 certified in the field EA 37, which specializes in education and training. ISO is an internationally recognized quality management system which guarantees our company's ability to meet client requirements at a high level of quality, naturally. Having said that, we are always ready to provide our consulting services to all types of businesses and organizations in various business areas. And of course, we also assist in funding training projects thanks to our internal service AFP, which is basically administers the finance projects. AD Global Solution has specialized in training services in relevant areas in personal development for many years and nationwide. So to go through the various divisions, just very briefly, we have AD Bank and Insurance. Now they specify and organize specific programs which address technical issues and also the regulations that companies need to abide by. Courses could be like CONSOB or EVAS, which could be in the classroom, or as well as e-learning. AD Management, here in the behavioral and the managerial sector, we offer innovative courses to develop human resources, courses such as team building, relationship management, as well as also support the organization processes like time management, for example. AD Safety, here we provide training in the field of health and safety at work. Courses could range from standard courses to meet security measurements in the company, or even customized courses for specific requests. Our technology division, here there are various types of courses. I would say mainly the ECDL certification preparation, which is very important, Microsoft Office packages, PowerPoint, etc., but also up to even specific software training to support the organization of our clients as well. And lastly, we have AD Languages, and yes, thanks to our qualified teachers, we are capable of delivering tailor-made courses, both in general and business language learning, and we're able, yes, to meet all client requirements really. We have different modes, ways. We've got face-to-face, we have distant learning, which could be either web lessons or telephone lessons or even just e-learning, and also we have the blended version as well. And yes, we are also a Cambridge Examination Preparation Center as well. So at this point, I'd like to move on to Robert, which will be explaining about how to use digital media to learn English.
Okay, Adrian. Right. Well, I'll just run through what we're going to talk about today. So here we're basically talking about going online in English and using all sorts of technology and all the different amazing resources that are available now. So we're going to look at which ones are really useful, which ones are not so useful. So what we're going to look at in this webinar is, first of all, we're going to look at some of the language of the web. Digital media can be quite confusing. We're going to look at some geek vocabulary, and if you don't know what a geek is, we're going to explain that. We're going to look at some different devices and media, some of the technology that is available. We'll have a quick tour of some of the main online resources, some of the websites that you can use, and apps as well. We're going to look at those. We're going to look at e-learning, and we're going to look at this new thing called blended learning, which everyone's heard about. But what actually is blended learning?
Okay.
How does that work in reality? So we'll look at that.
Fine.
We're also going to talk about having an online lesson or conversation in English using various forms of communications technology, and we'll look at those. We're also going to look at some apps and websites for learning English, and there is a huge, enormous variety of those available. So obviously we won't get through all of them, but we'll highlight a few. We'll look at a few of those. And we're also going to consider a very, very important question of online exams, testing and exam preparation using the internet, using online resources. And if there are any questions, we'll be taking those as well from the participants. And
yes, we do. I do also advise that during this webinar, participants can please throw in a few questions when they feel they need to.
Definitely. Anything, we'll be very happy to answer that. So let's start off with some of our key expressions.
What is this speak like a geek all about?
Okay, right. Well, as you can see from our friend here in the picture, it's a bit of a stereotype, but a geek is basically somebody who is very, very fond, somebody who likes technology. And so what's happened is there is almost like the internet has its own language, it has its own vocabulary. Some of these terms are very familiar. So, for example, when we talk about going online, we're talking about using the internet. Digital media, that's another expression that you'll come across. And things like surfing the web, so looking at websites, and that's obviously navigating. You know, these are the different metaphors that we have for accessing information online. We've got some phrases like to download, which is where you take a document from the internet onto your computer, and to upload, which is where you put the document from your computer up on the web. So download, upload, quite simple. Everyone's talking about social media these days.
Yes, Facebook is quite a big thing.
Facebook is incredibly well known. Maybe not so well known is in this country is Twitter. Everyone's heard of it. Not everyone uses it, but I mean, a lot of people, more and more people do have Twitter accounts.
Actually, I don't have a Twitter account.
You don't? You don't have Twitter? I'd certainly recommend people watching, do have a look at Twitter, do check it out. It's a very useful language tool as well, because each message is very, very short. So you've got about 140 characters in the message. And you have to get it's very good practice for writing in a very succinct way and making your language very compressed, because you have such a short space to write in.
So keep it clear.
Keep it clear. Yeah, it's a good discipline. Good discipline. And when you write on Twitter, what the message that you write is actually called a tweet. So Twitter is the platform, and you tweet. It's a verb, and it's also a noun. So you tweet a tweet. You write your tweet, and people can read it.
That's
Yeah. So again, a lot of these.
It's a regular verb.
Slang,
you tweeted
it is a tweet. Is a regular verb. So we've also got things like apps. App is actually short for application. But now everyone just talks about apps. We used to talk about programs. Programs seem to be dying, and everything seems to be an app nowadays, maybe because of the App Store and Apple.
In fact, interesting about WhatsApp. In South Africa, we actually say WhatsApp, and in Italy they say WhatsApp.
Exactly. So it's entered the language, isn't it? It's become part of the language. Everyone's talking about smartphones. So really, your smartphone is the main tool now for accessing a lot of the language learning resources, especially ones for mobile media. You can also use them on tablets. And another word that I haven't got up here, but one that has become very popular, is the phablet.
Okay.
Which is a phablet, which is a phone and a tablet. Okay. So it's like a big phone or a small tablet. Okay. So one of the features of online language is what we call neologisms. People make up, they invent new words, and then those new words actually become new words themselves. And they do become part of the language. Mobile devices. When we say a device, we're really just talking about some piece of equipment. Okay. In this case, usually we're talking about telephones, smartphones, tablets, but you can also access most of the resources that we're looking at on your PC or your Mac, your MacBook if you're a Mac user. And then we've got things like the App Store, which is known as Google Play if you're on the Android world. Right. Now the other thing we've got...
And iTunes, isn't it?
iTunes, definitely, for downloading music and videos, if again, for Mac people. Yeah. Now one of the features of online language is this alphabet soup of acronyms, and everyone's, you hear all these combinations of letters. Right. Can be very, very confusing.
Can be, yeah.
Yeah. So some of the main ones, the one that probably everyone knows is www, which stands for World Wide Web. Okay. So www, usually at the beginning of a web address. Okay. You've got IP, which is Internet Protocol. HTTP, which is hypertext I think, actually, I'm not sure if I have to check that one. I think it's hypertext transfer protocol. It's when you have a web address, it's what you see at the beginning. It will say HTTP : / and then www dot. One little point maybe I should mention here is when you have a web address, the point, we actually say dot. Right. So if we say, for example, bbc.com, we don't say .com, we say .com, and that's one of the little
mishaps that happen.
Yeah, it's a little. We actually use point when it's a decimal point. So if you have a number like 24.2, you say point. So you say dot when it's a web address. PHP. This is one of the languages of the web, and we've also got some funny ones. A lot of these come from chatting, right? And so what happened was a large vocabulary was invented because people were chatting, they were writing their text messages, and it was easier just to use a few letters than to write a sentence.
Make a stand for something rather than...
Exactly, they all mean something. So, for example, you may have seen BRB. BRB. I wonder if people watching can guess that one.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe someone could answer that question for us. What is BRB in the text messaging world?
Exactly. I'll tell you in case it doesn't come up.
Okay, well, let's give them.
We'll give you some time.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. Maybe while we're waiting, we can move on to the next one. Maybe
this one is ROTFL.
Oh, okay.
ROTFL. That one is a reaction. A lot of these are reactions that were actually invented before. Nowadays, people are very used to using emoticons, little faces. Okay. Sometimes called emoji.
Right, emoji.
I think emoji now is even more...
probably more common, maybe.
Yeah, it sounds a bit more trendy, doesn't it?
Right.
Emoticons.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll see if anyone can work out what BRB and RTFL, and we'll come back to those in a minute. Now, I've got some resources for you if you're watching this, or if you're looking at the PowerPoint, which will be available later. There are some in fact there are thousands and thousands of websites which explain all the acronyms. But these two are quite good. There's one on makeuseof.com, there's another one on matisse.net. Click on those links and you can find literally thousands of these acronyms. There is another one, I'll tell you this one now because it's a little joke. Do you know what a TLA is, Adrian?
TLA.
That's a very important acronym. Really? TLA?
I don't use TLA too much. I do use others, but not TLA.
Okay, I'll tell you now. A TLA, it's a 3-letter acronym.
Okay.
Right, because so many of these were invented that it was getting out of hand. It was getting a little bit ridiculous.
So keep it down to 3 letters.
Keep it down to 3 letters if you can.
Like LOL, lol.
Lol.
Use that a lot.
What is lol?
It's actually interesting because I was quite confused. I always thought it was laughing out loud.
It can be.
It could be, yeah.
It usually is laughing out loud, but
and then
it can also be lots of loud.
So I'm not sure which one. Probably most of the time I think they're using that laughing out loud now.
Yeah, actually, quite recently there was a funny story where the Prime Minister of Great Britain, David Cameron, he had to explain a text message he sent to a newspaper editor, and he'd written in the text message LOL, which he assumed meant lots of love.
Okay.
But when it was read out, people were surprised because they thought he actually meant laugh out loud.
Okay.
So check those. They can be a bit ambiguous. Yeah. And what you do tend to find is they're virtually all in English. So they're even used now in every language, but they all have a literal meaning.
Okay.
So that's a quick look at the language of the web. Let's go on.
Yes, devices and media. Plenty of devices, I'm sure, we can use in the media world. I see that you've got headphones there.
I have. So here in this section, basically these are the tools. This is the equipment that people need to access all the amazing things on the web. So we were talking just now about tablets and phones and phablets and PCs, so we've got those there. You need some technology just to access the web. Mm-hmm. Another thing very important for language learning now is the interactivity that you can have. You can have your conversation with somebody, and that's certainly something that we'll talk about because I know that relates to what we're doing here at AD Global in terms of language lessons online. Okay. So you will need a headset with a microphone, and I think you can see there as well the webcam, which in many cases is built into the PC, but you can also get these extra ones to put on your PC so that you can get a better picture.
Of course, yes.
Now another device that I've got there is just television. Television has become almost completely digital now, and there are far more channels. There are thousands more options that than were available years ago.
Sure.
And you've got
DSD TV, DSD TV or
yeah, exactly. Things like what's happened is television and computers have basically converged and they've become one platform. And now there are even lots of other devices like the Google Chromecast. There's things you can plug into your television which connect it to your phone, so you can stream media from your phone onto your television.
Wow.
And so you've got for language learners, a very important point here is that you've got the option to change the language. And let's have a quick look here.
Sorry, Robert. Actually, I didn't see any answers about those acronyms.
Didn't they come in?
No.
Shall I explain those?
Yes, let's go. But I do see another one there. Someone has actually asked about whether the subtitles are better to be watched in English or in Italian.
Actually that's a very good question. Okay, so if you're watching shows on the television, generally speaking now, the original language is usually English. So if you're watching your favourite show, like for example, I think we can say the name Game of Thrones or Grey's Anatomy or
these various TV series.
These very, very long shows that go on forever. It's a very good idea to change the language, change the settings on your television to the original language. Now you can't do that on every channel and every platform, but some of them you can. So check if your service provider allows you to do that. And if you watch a TV show in the original English, you may find it's a bit difficult. Some of the language can be very, very tricky, very difficult to understand. But the subtitles thing is a good question. If you watch in English and also have the English subtitles at the same time, that is a very, very powerful, very effective way of reinforcing the language. And also, one little tip is if you watch, say for example, 10-15 minutes, and then go back and watch the same bit again.
Okay.
Again, in terms of language learning, you always want to try and learn as much as you can. These are entertainment programs, so why not watch the program in Italian, in your own language, but then go back, watch it in English, maybe just even watch 5 minutes and just watch it 2 or 3 times with the subtitles. So that's a way of using a standard form of media that's commercially available, but converting it into a language learning resource. Sure. So I think that's a theme going through the whole of this this webinar, is that there is so much stuff available.
Make use of it.
You definitely make use of it and adapt it to your own needs. And that's certainly something that we do here at AD Global. Is it's all about customizing. It's all about adapting material for the individual student.
Exactly.
But you can do it yourself as well if you're at home, if you're watching something. I'll just run through these quickly. Using a tablet or a smartphone, obviously that's a device that you have with you all the time, and you'll notice now everyone on the metro seems to have head down.
Okay.
Little video going.
Yes,
so why not make that an English video? If you're going home on the metro, you've got 20-30 minutes to sit there doing nothing. Why not watch?
Instead of playing video games.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch something in English.
Yeah, watch something in English, and even put the subtitles on your phone as well.
Well, the more exposure you get, the better.
Yeah, definitely. Having a conversation. Now we're going to look at this in more detail a bit later on. But using Skype and other platforms, like for example Spreed, that's a very popular one. It's one that I know we use here at AD Global. With your headset, that's always an essential thing.
Yes.
Have your headset so the other person can hear you. Podcasts.
Right.
Podcasts. So downloading a radio program, or even a television program, or if you use things like YouTube, download the program onto your device. Or there's another word which is streaming media, which you hear a lot about. That basically means just watching the program as it's downloading. Okay. So you're not actually saving it onto your device, you're just watching it in real time. You do need a good connection for that. It can be very frustrating, if you're watching a TV program, and especially on YouTube.
It's a bit of data, doesn't it? Streaming. You use quite a bit of data as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, watch your allowance, because it can use up all your data when you're on, especially if you're on a mobile device. Download your video at home, put it on your phone, and watch it. On the train. It's always the best thing. So we talked a little bit about television, watching programs in the original language using subtitles. Other very specific forms of technology. Some of these now are a little bit older, but they're still used quite a lot. So, for example, things like DVDs, DVD-ROMs, and we certainly use these here when we're doing courses. A lot of course books include a DVD.
That's true.
Those DVD-ROMs are actually a program. So what you do is you actually install them onto your computer, and certainly some of the ones that we use in courses at AD Global Solution, they've got fantastic resources, fantastic materials, really good. Yeah. They've got interactive things that you can click, and you can save your progress. Yeah.
I think it's important as well, these DVD or DVD-ROMs as well, because at the same time that's also in line with what they're doing in the classroom. So yes, it's great. There's a lot of free devices and tools and resources out there, but at times, especially when it comes with AD Global, we like to try and be selective with what we choose, because that way we have more control of where the students go and what we recommend. So they could eventually also give feedback to what they've done, depending on the tasks that we give them to do, and then they can give feedback in the classroom. I would agree with you that, one of the main issues here, there's so much material, there are so many resources available, it can be overwhelming. You can feel, where do I start? And obviously,
a teacher is always going to be able to identify the main resources that are useful for the individual student.
That's where AD Global comes in.
It does
give some direction.
It does. The customization is very, very important. And one final thing we've got here is video games.
Okay.
So if you are a gamer, you can actually learn quite a lot of English in using video games, because a lot of the games are already in English. They're very, very realistic. I don't know if you're a gamer.
Used to be.
Yeah.
Used to be.
Space Invaders.
That was the 80s.
That was my. But now, I mean.
Now it's first person adventure. There's a lot of written script as well.
Yeah, the script. I mean, actually, learning. You could almost learn English entirely from playing a lot of the new video games. First of all, because they are social, and so you're playing with other people, and there's actually quite a lot of conversation going on. So again, if you're plugged into a game and it's in English and you're playing with people internationally, that's a natural language environment to use English. Yeah. Another feature of video games is they have a lot of sort of messages appearing on the screen, and there's a kind of chat cloud that appears certainly in things like games like World of Warcraft. Again, that's in English. People are playing, they're using the language, they have little recorded messages, background conversation. So when we're talking about learning English online, really try and open up your horizon, because there are so many different resources.
Sure. That's good. It's good. Yes, in fact, when speaking about our resources as well, besides our e-learning platforms that we have, depending on students' needs and client requests as well, we, like I did mention, we are selective about what is out there as well, and we give them some direction on where to go as well, to kind of give that extra touch for them and give them a little bit of freedom as well, because if not, it's sometimes a bit of stress. They've got the classroom tasks to do outside, and then if they've got this extra free time to go and surf and enjoy themselves, it makes it a bit more happy for them to do as well, and I think they're more willing, more motivated, and it makes them happy, and it also gives us good feedback because they're learning more outside the classroom as well.
Definitely. I mean, I would say in general, I think a lot of these resources, a lot of the new technology, one of the great things is that it does empower the student. It does give the student more autonomy. And so, it's good to learn how to use new resources. It's good to become autonomous.
Right.
But obviously, we are language professionals, so we know that, eventually people do find it more productive to use the technology, especially when there's a teacher, when there's a course.
Of course.
And that's something we'll certainly look at when we get to the e-learning.
They need to be guided.
They need to be guided. It's, there's a lot of material, but it's good to have someone to point you in the right direction. Okay, let's look at some of these amazing resources.
Oh, TED Talks, that's something that we're pretty familiar with as well. Yeah,
we do. We like TED at AD Global Solutions, don't we?
Yes, we do. Great presentations, aren't they?
I don't know if you're not familiar with TED. I'll just explain. Basically, it's a website. It's actually now it's a foundation. It's a big international, very well financed foundation. TED stands for Technology, Entertainment and Design.
Okay.
So originally what happened was people started making some little videos, putting them online about technology, education and design. And these proved very, very popular. And the idea is there's a speaker, there's always an expert speaker.
Okay.
They talk for about 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, probably quite limited, aren't they? Not too long.
Yeah, they're always short. They're just always just the right time to, so there's enough information but you don't get bored.
Okay.
And the thing about a TED Talk is it's like a presentation. There's a speaker, they have a big screen, they usually take place in like universities or theatres. They have very high production values, so they're filmed like television.
Okay.
And now, what's happened is over the years, TED Talks have developed into a huge range covering almost every imaginable topic: science and language and technology, politics, and everything. And one of the great things about TED is that you have the video, But you also have
TypeScript as well, don't you?
Yeah, you have the complete transcript of the talk. Now, we can't really sort of demonstrate this now, but I mean, it's worth clicking on the TED site and looking for what's called the interactive transcript.
Okay.
Now, the interactive transcript is everything that the speaker says, but if you click on the text, the video will actually jump to the point that you're in. It's very, very smart piece of technology. Yes, it's incredible. There's also a thing called TEDx. So if you see TED with a little X next to it, those are independent TED events which anyone can organise, and quite often they're at universities. They are, small hubs and networks where people get together and organise them. So TED is absolutely an amazing resource, and I do urge everyone, please go and look at TED if you haven't looked at it. Not now, don't look at it now. Stay watching the webinar, but after the webinar, go and look at TED, and you'll definitely look at that for hours and hours. Now, another resource that I thought I'd highlight here is the BBC. I'm sure most people have heard of the BBC. Actually, that's another acronym, actually.
British Broadcasting Corporation.
It is the British Broadcasting Corporation. And this is the main public television organisation in the UK. Now, the BBC do actually have a huge number of online resources. They have thousands and thousands of websites and podcasts and things you can download. I should mention that there's been a very big debate in the UK about the BBC, because you may not realise this, but actually in the UK we pay quite a lot of money to watch the BBC through what's called the licence fee. I think in Italy it's the canone, but in the UK it's called the licence fee. It's actually quite a lot of money. It's a substantial amount of money. And what's happened is the government have actually, or the BBC, following a review with the government, they've decided to scale back the amount of stuff online. But even so, they have so much material online that you could watch for the next 1,000 years. You'd still find enough material. If I just click through there. So I've got some examples of material. In fact, I'll go to the first one here, which is the online dictionaries. I'm sure most people are familiar with word reference.
Yes, I think that's word reference. It's pretty popular.
I think now word reference has almost become like the default dictionary online.
There's also vocabulary.com, quite good as well.
Vocabulary.com is slightly different, because what you do with that is you have an account and you build up your own stock of vocabulary, and it tests you on it as well. It's got like a kind of inbuilt language learning, language testing function. So that is vocabulary.com is definitely worth looking at. Online dictionaries, also things like Oxford dictionaries, the Oxford Learners dictionaries are available online. We were talking about the BBC before.
Yes, the 6-minute English.
6-minute English. So I think this is self-explanatory.
Sure.
These are little 6-minute podcasts which you can download. Each one covers a different topic. It might be some aspect of British culture or international culture or sport or technology. And the great thing about the BBC Learning English resources is that they have all the vocabulary, they have all the things like worksheets and comprehension questions. So they're very useful if you want to listen to a subject and then do a little bit of language work.
It's great for listening exercises.
They're really fascinating. They're interesting as well. I mean, they're intrinsically interesting.
It's also authentic material. It's updated material.
They're great. The BBC Learning English site. It's got a sort of huge, enormous amount of material, like you say, constantly updated. So we talked about TED, the 15-minute videos, expert speakers, the interactive transcript. Another one is the British Council. The British Council is the UK's main cultural organisation, and part of its activities is also language resources. And they have a site which is quite similar to the BBC one. So the British Council one is called Learn English, and the BBC is called Learning English. They're quite similar, aren't they?
Yes, similar.
But you can find, again, an infinite variety of interactive activities,
grammar exercises, videos, you name it.
Yeah, there's everything is there. It's all free. It's kindly paid for by the British taxpayer, and it's available to anyone who wants to use it throughout the world. Now, another obvious resource that we should mention is news and entertainment sites.
Yes.
The best, the most updated website at the moment seems to be the Guardian website. The Guardian is a British newspaper. Okay. It's quite an old newspaper. It was founded in the 19th century, but they are bang up to date with technology. Okay. And they have this huge website which has just got everything in it. It is for, it's not simplified. It is obviously a mainstream newspaper. So I would say for people watching this, don't be discouraged when you pick up a newspaper, or if you're reading a newspaper online and you think, oh, I don't understand it, I've been learning English and I don't understand this. Yeah, newspapers are written in a special type of English. Yeah. It's a special elevated form of language. And if you read, for example, The Economist or The Independent or the Financial Times, they are written to be slightly difficult. So, don't worry if you don't understand every word. I would say in general, again, this is something that we emphasise to students in our courses at AD Global Solution, is that try and understand what we call the gist, the essence of the article. Don't kill yourself trying to understand every single word. Try and get the general meaning. But if you do find a word and you think, that's a new word, that's interesting. Obviously online you have lots of resources for copying your word and keeping it in your notepad or adding it to your own personal dictionary. Sure. Another very popular website is the Mail Online. This is the website of the Daily Mail. Okay. It's a bit more poppy. It's slightly more popular than the Guardian, and there's a lot of celebrity stories. So you get the main news stories, and they have quite famously, they have a little strip going down the side of the screen, which has got endless stories about celebrities going on holiday and buying clothes. Right. Who cares? I mean, the point is, it's all in English. It's vocabulary. Right. As long as you are reading and thinking about English, it's always useful. Of course. So don't feel guilty if you spend 10 minutes reading a story about Kim Kardashian. Okay. Because it's in English, so you're learning the language.
I see. Oh, sorry, Rob. I've got another question that's come up there. Someone's asked about whether CNN could be a good news site.
Definitely. Yep. CNN is now.
The American version, isn't it? So it depends. I mean, it's a bit against your British.
Well, I have included mainly British ones, but obviously, American, Australian, South African, Indian,
ABC.
Exactly. So we should definitely say that English is an international language. It's not just British, and there are a huge number of resources.
In fact, what AD does as well at times is if certain students need, for example, go to the States, then of course we'll direct them more towards more American accent websites, for example, rather than others. But
exactly, I would say CNN is a great site. Cable News Network. It was one of the first companies to use cable technology, and the founder, Ted Turner, little celebrity gossip, founder Ted Turner, do you know who he was married to?
Maybe the viewers know.
Do you know? Tell us if you know, and we'll tell you if you're right. He was married to someone very famous. And also we've got here YouTube. So everyone knows YouTube.
Yes.
YouTube is actually transforming itself. It's changing. It used to be just a website where you could watch pictures of cats playing the piano or people falling off skateboards. YouTube has actually now become a mainstream on-demand platform. It actually produces its own content. Google now they actually have their own production TV studios in places like California, and they're actually making TV programs and putting them on YouTube. There is actually also a subscription version of YouTube called YouTube Red.
Oh, okay.
Which I think no one's heard of it here. It's
YouTube Red.
It's YouTube Red. It's being rolled out in America, and so obviously eventually it will come to Europe. YouTube Red is like Netflix. So basically you pay a monthly subscription and you'll be able to download or to stream television programs. Okay. So YouTube has got, at the moment you can still find complete programs and albums, that sort of thing. They want to get some revenue from those. Yeah. So watch out for YouTube. It's going to become a main source of video material.
Sure.
Now we've also got here Facebook pages, Twitter accounts.
You mentioned that bit before, really. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So social media, it's been a revolution. It's exploded. There's a huge amount of material. Be selective, choose things that you're interested in. Right. And I would say as a language teacher, if you are interested in something, you're more motivated, you're more likely to read it for a start.
Of course, exactly.
Yeah,
and participate, but more engaging, I think, as well.
Exactly, yeah. So
there's groups as well that you can create as well, can't you, with Facebook?
You can do it as pages, so it's good. It's a good way of engaging, interacting with the language. And maybe you'd like to sort of say a little bit about what we're doing here.
Yes, well, exactly. Yeah, with AD Global Solution, you've mentioned ample sites that we also look at as well. And again, really depending on who we have in front of us and what their needs are, then we kind of direct them to specific areas on the internet. I mean, yourself, it's vast out there.
Yeah.
But let's say, for example, there could be a class that they really need to focus on their presentation skills. We would direct them perhaps towards TED Talks as well.
Yep.
Of course, our own e-learning platform does help in certain areas as well.
Yep.
But it's not only our e-learning platform, plus if it's blended, naturally we'll speak about blended quite quickly later on as well, because time is moving on, but yes. We like to indicate certain tools that are useful for them to improve that particular skill, and then they can give feedback naturally into the classroom as well, and perhaps even simulate them.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. But actually you've mentioned that, so if we go on now to talk about e-learning, e-learning, the E is basically electronic, so sometimes it's got a hyphen, sometimes it hasn't, sometimes it's one word, sometimes it's hyphenated. Yeah, e-learning. Here we go. So, what is e-learning? So, e-learning is basically learning. That I think we should stress the point that it's it's not that different from using a book. The difference is it's the format, it's the media. There are many different types of e-learning, and as you said, the platforms that we're using here at AD Global Solution are tailored to the needs for individual students. You may find if you go online, again, it's a bit of a jungle. There are thousands and thousands of platforms. One interesting one in terms of this talk that people might be interested in, a thing called MOOCs. MOOCs. I don't know if everyone's come across that.
No, never heard of
a MOOC. Okay, so basically a MOOC is a massive open online course.
Okay.
And when I say massive, I mean massive. So these are websites that have been developed by universities or private foundations. Okay. And what they are basically doing is they are making university course material or any type of e-learning material available usually for free to thousands and thousands of people. One of the most famous ones is called the Khan Academy, which was actually set up by a guy who was a sort of financial wizard and then decided he wanted to educate the world. Sure. So there's another one called Udacity.
Lots out there, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean these are amazing. Go and pick and choose, try everything, see what you like. Now, one thing that I would, everyone's wondering, why have you got this picture of a blender?
A blender.
That is a blender making a smoothie.
Sorry, before you go into blender, something important about the e-learning platform as well, the ones that we use as well. I think an important aspect to mention is that I see that you've got something about online with a teacher. Now that is something very important for us because the teachers, or we can call them also tutors, they follow the users very closely as well. And if it is a blended course, which you'll explain right now, it is very useful for the teachers or tutors to know what they are doing and where to look at or what weaknesses they might need to improve on, etc. But that's
definitely. I'm 100% in agreement with you. I'll explain now the reason we've got the blender.
Right.
I think I can say the word frullatore because we're supposed to keep it in English, but basically it's a blender. Yeah.
Right.
We have this thing called blended learning. Blended learning is it's a hot topic. It's a big thing now in the English teaching world. So blended learning is, like you say, it's online learning plus conventional face-to-face teaching. One of the things that happened is over the years, e-learning is actually, in some respects, it's quite an old idea now. It's not that recent. E-learning had a bit of a reputation as just being, you read your slides, your PowerPoint slides, you click, you go through to the next one, you read it, you might choose an option.
Right, kind of multiple choice.
Yeah, it has this reputation of being like point and click.
Okay.
And then when you finish like 300 slides, you've done the course.
Right.
There are still a lot of e-learning platforms like that, and obviously it depends on the content.
Yeah.
If you're doing a course and you have to do the e-learning, you're going to get accredited, you're going to get a certificate, so you will be motivated. But what we found is the best way to use e-learning and to use all the technology is to blend it, it's to mix, it's to combine it with face-to-face teaching.
Right.
And so when you see these blended learning courses, like the ones you say that are offered by AD Global Solution, the idea is that you have your e-learning experience, you have your online learning, but you've also got the backing of a teacher, you've got a real live human being explaining things to you. And
the personal touch.
It's the personal touch.
Humanistic approach as well, but the same. True.
Exactly. Well, I mean, you know, we're all human, and you know, people like to speak, and they like to speak with the teacher.
No, in fact, when you speak about blend, I mean, you know, AD Global, we have different combinations, let's say, of the blended approach. I mean, we could have, like you said, face-to-face plus e-learning. We could have e-learning plus telephone lessons, or e-learning plus web lessons. In those cases are quite good, because in those cases they get that extra personal attention that they might need, or particular questions they might have, either from the e-learning platform itself or something totally different that they need to perhaps work on for work, and they need to have some special care or attention on that as well. Or combinations could be, let's say, classroom plus telephone.
Telephoning as well.
E-learning. I mean, if we blend, we could have not necessarily e-learning in a sense of platform, but it could be telephone course or web lesson plus face-to-face.
In fact, I would mention here that the could even include books. So even the old media, the offline media. The idea is to put everything into the mix, and like you say, it's always a question about what the student needs. It's not what is available. It's like, what do I need?
Find the right combination.
Yeah, finding the right combination, and obviously, you know, trained language teachers, language specialists are always able to help you with that.
Okay.
So if we move on, we talked about.
Yes, we've done that already. Yes, exactly.
Yes,
Skype
online lessons.
I mean, these are some examples of the different tools that are out there for, you know, web conferencing, as they say as well. I mean, all good tools that could be useful for, I would say, maybe the difference of maybe with our experience using Spreed is that with Skype you don't have that interactive whiteboard, which is quite useful for the classroom. It's almost like being in a virtual classroom, really. You're sharing, in a sense, a document or something that you're reading together in real time. Whereas, you know, you could, as a teacher, underline or ask them to underline, for example, the phrasal verbs that you find, or identify certain grammar or vocabulary you're looking for. So, very useful tools, and we have a variety of them. But it's good for the conversation part of things, and as well as for the comprehension, naturally.
Exactly, and I would emphasise a point that we've been making here, which is that technology is great, and I love technology, and I think it's a lot of fun. But language learning, really, it's about the language. It's about the student.
Yeah.
The technology is always at the service of the course of the student. So don't be blinded by the technology. Do be selective. Try things out. If you don't like something, try something different.
Yeah.
And certainly that's our approach here. We're very, very flexible, and we adapt everything for the individual student.
For sure. And we always recommend, when it comes to the individual students, to bring in or share something that they really need to improve on in their real life working situation that they have.
Yeah, exactly, definitely.
I mean, if they need to work on a presentation or then have emails to write, bring it in, or let's discuss it so we can improve what you really need.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's important as well.
Right, shall we go on a bit? Okay, one of the things I was just going to run through very quickly with the apps.
Yeah, very quick because time is running out.
Okay, so basically there are thousands of apps and websites. I've picked out a few that I thought people might find interesting. A lot of these you can download onto your phone, onto your smartphone or your tablet now. This is one called Quizlet.
Okay.
This is one that I've used with students. So basically these are flashcards.
Okay.
A flashcard is you have one thing on one side
and you turn around.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if everyone knows flashcards from school, this is an electronic version of flashcards where you can learn words, learn vocabulary. It's got little games built in.
Yeah.
Another one.
It's quite fun.
Yeah, it's fun. This is a fun one. It's called English Attack. You watch a little video. It's got questions. You do answer the questions.
Okay.
It's got little challenges.
Right. Testing your understanding really of
exactly. Comprehension, bits of vocabulary.
Okay.
It's fun. One of the aspects of these different models is that usually they're free, and then they have extra payment features if you get more involved in them. It's called the freemium model. Freemium, yeah. And I think finally, if we just look at the question of exams and testing.
Yes, as you know, we are an exam or a preparation centre as well for Cambridge. So our exams, I would say that we particularly, I see you've got quite a list there. But I would say, since we're more in the business world out there, bullets is more for us, I would say, as a tester for bullets. And also Cambridge exams, perhaps more the Beck examinations are more our kind of cup of tea, let's say, because it again is more in the business world. But I know there are different exams out there.
Exactly. If I just, this is, like you said, the BULATs. This is the online BULATs test where you can actually take the exam on the computer.
Right.
One point about these exams is there are also lots of websites for preparation.
Good, yes. Mock exams.
Mock exams, definitely. So you can practice them before you actually take them. And here, this little slide shows you a comparison of all the different Cambridge exams. The main one I think you'll see on the right there is IELTS, which is now becoming the most popular, the default exam in the English-speaking world. And BULATs is just to the left of that. The point here is when you take an exam, ask the professionals, ask us, what exam do I need? Yeah. When is it available?
Exactly.
What preparation do I need?
Well.
Yeah, we can tell you. AD Global Solution will have all the information for you about that.
Okay.
And
yeah, that's. I think that we've got maybe a bit of time for questions and answers over here now. Something about the test as well.
Yeah.
Something to mention as well. I know there's assessment tests out there as well that people could do online.
Yes.
AD Global Solution actually has our own assessment test online as well.
Yeah.
And I would say maybe an important difference is that those free ones out there, they could be very good, they could be very comprehensive. Some of them are longer, some of them are shorter, some give immediate answers, some don't. But I think a bonus point, I would say, to go to AD Global as well is that besides doing the online test, which is naturally focusing mainly on the grammar and the lexis, we do follow up with an oral test. Yeah. And that is very important for us because that tests then your speaking abilities and your comprehension abilities to kind of really sum up everything and get an overall, because often just an online test by doing multiple choice is not really enough to understand your production, let's say your oral production. So I think we are coming to an end here. if anybody has any questions, I think we are.
Do we explain our acronyms?
Yes, those acronyms. What are those acronyms?
Well,
we didn't get any answer from those acronyms.
Okay, I'll give you the answers to those. So the one we had was BRB.
Right, BRB.
BRB means be right back.
Be right back.
So if you're chatting and you need to go get a cup of coffee or something, if you write BRB, that means I'll be right back.
Okay.
And the other one we had was ROTFL, which is rolling on the floor laughing.
Rolling on the floor.
Yeah, so
laughing.
if you're chatting with someone and they can't see what you're doing and you say something funny,
rolling on the floor.
ROTFL.
Okay, so it's even more than LOL.
Even more than that, more extreme.
Okay, well, I think it's time to just finish off here. Important is to mention a little bit about what's happening next week, because next week we have another webinar. But firstly, of course, thank you, Robert, again for coming. It's been a great pleasure having you here, and I hope everybody enjoyed this webinar session as well. Please remember to follow our Facebook page and LinkedIn as well for any all our new innovative ideas and courses that we like to let you know about. Don't forget as well to subscribe to our newsletter to get promotional offers and any news in the training world out there. We can see on the 15th of June, next week, same time, we will have a particular webinar in the AD management area, which is about engagement, leadership and neuroscience. Also very interesting, I think. And yes, later we'll be sending you a certificate of participation for all the viewers out there with a link where you could go and listen to the webinar again as many times as you want, really. And of course, any questions, you're welcome to please send an email to kumurchala@adglobalsolution.it, or you could also visit our website to browse around, let's say, and look at what we have to offer as a whole.